All right. So the reason I wanted to do cookbook illustration during this month, which is dedicated to studying the various aspects of design, um, is because a lot of times there are projects that you can execute practically, like maybe cookbook illustrations, but where we fall short is in understanding how composition works. How can you make an illustration or an illustrated cookbook look good and look like something that you would want to pick up from a bookshop? So there are a few pointers that can really make a difference in how the same things that you can make at whatever level, when put together in the right composition, can look like a good enough illustration that can go into a book. And I have printed books of previous students. So we had a cookbook made last year, a cookbook made in 2020. And those were a good way to, it's like a small, very nice practical exercise in seeing your work in print. And thanks to that book, two of our students went on and published their own cookbooks also. So it's a very, very doable project. So we will be doing a little bit of illustration and a little bit of lettering, but what we are focusing on is layout design. So this is how to lay out a page and what are the rules of laying out pictures and text, and how to build that text and how to compose a page so that it is both attractive and also readable. And also you can have a little creative freedom in all of that as well. So we'll just go over some rules of layout design. And by rules, I just mean certain pointers, which if you follow, you can just blindly keep following those formulas or those templates and make a whole range of designs. But there is a lot of room for creative expression, even in book design. As you see, we've all been through a whole lot of magazines and also illustrated books, and every time there is something new that you can see, and it all depends on the creativity of the writer, how much you want to expand it. So one tip I would give to all the new students is that when we are making these notes, just the first principles that I'm going to tell you about, try to make them in pen. Don't, if you're making it in pencil, don't erase. They're just going to be a bunch of notes that might look a little haphazard. And there, I will tell you when we are making the final artwork. So during the final artwork, at the end, we can use the eraser, but I'm going to have to insist a little bit on you controlling how much you use the eraser. This is just like a guideline I give you once in the beginning, because we are in the habit of drawing a line and then erasing because we constantly doubt ourselves. And then once we erase it, we realize that at least 2-3 times afterwards, we'll keep making the line in the same place. It's something to do just with how our brain functions. So whenever you need to make a correction and you think you need to erase a line, first, using the line that you are unsure about, correct it. Make the line that you think is correct, and then erase the one that you think is not up to mark. Okay, just follow this and you should be fine. And ideally, if you don't use the eraser, if a few extra lines remain in your book, that's perfectly fine. What we should try to do is develop a very comfortable sketching hand. And in sketches, there are lots of lines. It doesn't matter. Most of the lines are there only to help you build a more perfect shape. So let them be. They're not a big deal. All right, so in book design or layout design, we usually have at least 3 components. So you have a picture, you have a title text, and you have a body text. So we have to create a design that is going to juggle these 3 elements, at least these 3 elements. And in these 3 categories, you can have even more. So you can have one large picture, one inset, you can have large text, a byline. You can have different types of body text. Like if you're writing a recipe, you can have one kind of text for the ingredients. another kind of text for methods. So it still falls under those three broad categories, and we will just work with that for the moment, not more than that. So typically what I do, or what I recommend, is make your notes on the left side of the page, the part of the paper that is ring bound, and till about half. And then on the right side of the page, you can make the final illustration. Now, today, what we're going to do is first we are going to write some principles. Then we are going to make some samples of those pages and those layouts. And then on a fresh sheet, we will be making our illustration. All right. So this page, this whole page, you can use freely. But even in that freedom, I would like you to enjoy making a pretty looking page. Let me see if I have a few in the past that I can explain to you. So when you're making your notes, try to keep them organized. This is the rough work, something like this. So try and look at making even your rough work look attractive. We have done quite a bit. Yeah, something like that. This is all the rough work. And this is finally the lettering that we did. Okay, so this, even these little habits eventually build up to you having a better understanding of spaces, a better understanding of horizontal, vertical. So you don't avoid making notes, just, just scribbling notes, because in the end, those are the things that look ugly, honestly speaking. So try to write in a straight line. And in the attempt to write in a straight line, if your lines go a little odd, that's fine. It's okay. Using that, you can always straighten it. Okay, because otherwise you will never be able to write in a straight line if you don't even try it. All right, so layout design. So for recipes, we have one component that is image, title text, and body text. So these are our three elements. Now in image, we can just have a cutout, an image cutout. We can have half page. We can have full page. And by half page, it could be half, one third.
Yeah, now it's clearer. It had gone out of focus. Yeah, now it's clear.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, this is going to keep going out of focus when I write, because it focuses on the top part or the middle part over here. The moment my hand moves away, it will come back in focus. Okay, so in title text, the options that we have are the font selection, or the lettering selection, and the second is placement. These are the two variables. And then, of course, we have something like color, which will again depend on the color we use for the image. In terms of body text, again, we have font. And now with font, we have the type and the size. Here too, there's placement. And usually this color is just black, but we will insert this in case we are using a black body. So that brings me to the invisible element, which is the paper. So these are the three that we see, and the invisible element is the background. Now, usually the background is just paper, regular paper, so drawing paper. And that is often white or off-white. But it can also be colored paper. It can also be textured paper. And it can also be others. So in others, remind me, I'll come back to others in a bit. But these are more or less what we can stick with as far as illustrating a recipe is concerned. Now, the reason why I break everything down like that is because then it's just a matter of mix and match. And it becomes a little easier for a beginner to work out what they would like to mix and match together. So let's try making some small thumbnail illustrations of how the recipe can look. Now, usually it's a book. So how about let's make a rectangle, a small rectangle, no more than about 2 inches across by an inch long, and divide it in half. So this will look like an open book, like a spread. And I'm making multiple so that we can try out multiple design ideas. Oh, Nita's here. Hi, Nita, you made it?
Yeah, I just managed. Is it okay if I just join now?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hope I'm not late.
Well, you are a little bit, but I'll just bring you up to speed. See, don't bother writing all these things down right
Okay.
now. So I'll just explain quickly.
Okay.
We've skipped forward to the next module and we're doing recipe illustration because a couple
Okay.
of people did not have tracing paper. So I didn't want to, and then you and Elaine would also have missed it. So
Okay.
in recipe illustration, now Elaine has done it before. So I'll explain to you.
Okay.
Just quickly an overview. So these are the three elements that we play with in recipe illustration. You have
Image.
title and body text. In image, you can have a cutout image. So it's just like and what this will be like, I'm going to show over here.
Okay.
Cutout, half page or a part of a page, and full page illustration.
Okay.
In text and body text, you just have a font, the type, size, placement, how you want to place it, and the color you use. So
Okay.
these are more the visible elements that we often grapple with. But there's one more thing that we often don't think out is a background on which we can make this.
Okay.
The most common will be drawing paper, but you can also opt for colored paper, textured paper, or other options, which I will come to right in the end.
Okay.
All right. So when we talk about cutout design, it means, say we are talking about maybe a salad. So we'll make a salad bowl, and then we will write the title, and then we will write the ingredients on one side and the method on the other. So this is the simplest way of going about it. So here we have decided a place. We are still not into the color part. What font, we'll get to that later. But this is how you can do layout design. This is the broad layout that we can create. This is a cutout design, meaning we don't have to fill in any background. We don't have to give anything else. Even if we do, we can do it differently. Now, we can also play around with this. And I'm going to use the facing page to play around. So I could probably make a salad bowl like that. Maybe I can put a tomato or something over here. And then the salad bowl over here, which would still be a cutout. I could write the title somewhere over here. Write the ingredients over here. And then make the method somewhere like this. So these thumbnail illustrations are a brilliant way to just test out what might look good or what you would like to do. So in the next 2 pages, I want you to try a couple of more placement ideas. One is a bowl in the center, one is a bowl bottom side. Are there any other things that you can think of where you can play around with the cutout image and its position and placement of the lettering style? And by placement, I also mean orientation. So is it horizontal, or do you want to place it vertical? Play around with that. There's no right or wrong when you are playing around with layouts. And then we have to just work out feasibility, readability, appropriateness. That comes at a later stage. Okay, so let's try making some. I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it, and then I'll come up with a design, a couple of designs of my own. How's everyone doing? Okay, I'll make my own now. So I can have my letters over here. I can have my cutout in the middle. And I could also have my title at the bottom. This can be in the bottom. So these are just 4, but we can, as you can see, we can make multiples. All right. Do you get it? Okay. Now we can try with half page. Now, as is expected, logically speaking, you have 4 ways of halving or distributing the page space. You can literally make it half horizontally, half the top half can be an illustration or the bottom half can be an illustration. So it'll pretty much look like this, divided in half. But not to forget, we could also do something like this, where we could make the illustration in part of the page on the left, or we could also make it in part of the page like this. Now, in this case, when you have divided, what's the difference between a layout like this and this? Is over here, you might be able to put in more things, like maybe you can make a full illustration of your salad bowl, all your ingredients sitting on a table. Maybe a spoon. And it all just becomes like a big image, all your, yeah. So more elaborate illustration. And then of course, it's up to you to decide what style of illustration you want. That is a separate issue. Then we have the lettering, and the same things can be used over here. You can use the lettering over here, or you could also use lettering within this. So just to differentiate, I'll use a blue pen and I will make letters over here. So I'm just making some lines so that the letters look like they're over here. And then we can make our body text somewhat like this. And then if it's too blank, we could also add a few elements over here. So it's a rather elaborate illustration. Now, in the next case, I'm not going to repeat the same thing up and down. We could also consider the fact that it doesn't have to be half and half. And like we've done it over here, we could have something like this. You have your illustration in part of the page, but then you have all your ingredients, like what you've got over here. And it's not a complete illustration like that, but it still occupies a large space, almost amounting to about a third of the page. Or coming up to half. And then you can have your text over here. And then, now in this point, I'd like to bring in the idea of a different kind of placement. We've got a regular placement for the title now. It's right there on the top. But when we are making text for an illustrated recipe, you don't necessarily need to write in a straight line. In fact, writing in a straight line is such a bother when you're hand illustrating that you might as well enjoy that and instead of trying to struggle with writing a straight line. So in that case, maybe what you'd like to do is put your text where you have drawn your illustration. So you could probably put the ingredient names where you've drawn the ingredients. You could separately also draw the ingredients like this and write their names right underneath them. And then when you're making the writing the recipe, you could probably just write it like that around the bowl. So this is a very unique placement that you can do for lettering when you are illustrating a recipe. And making making lettering like that on a computer is a nightmare. So this is very computer design. But I often feel that we have decided that any design like that is organized, it looks very clean, but it's so mechanical, it's so artificial. How do you bring out your artistic ability? So this is where you change the game and you take over from the computer. All right, now the same thing can be done in half, either the illustration on the left or the right. And in terms of, if we have a salad, here's one very nice illustration you can make. So you can literally draw half the salad bowl, and maybe you can just show all your ingredients being tossed about and just falling into the salad bowl. Now, this is not my idea or a very unique idea. I'm sure you must have also come across it. But here it's almost like an onomatopoeic illustration. You are illustrating a tossed salad like a tossed salad. And then we can write the text also. We don't need to write it all in this form. We could write something like this. Again, moving away from what a computer can do, and finding a way where it would be definitely difficult for a computer, but much more easier for us to make letters which are wobbly, which are not vertical at all points. Sizes are all over the place because we are making it by hand. And we can also give this nice text wrap around the bowl. So when you have text that just hugs an invisible border around an image, that thing is called a text wrap. This is often a setting in layout design software where you put an invisible frame around the image, and when the text is placed over there, you instruct the text to just go around that image at a certain distance. And then the last one, in this case, you could probably show it as an image. Now, this all depends on how you're going to show your salad itself. So suppose I show the top of the salad like that, and it's prepared. And then I put it on a table, like I'm placing it in the outdoor somewhere. There are some flowers and maybe a nice checker background, like a picnic tablecloth. And here I could write something like this. Text wrap around the body of the illustration itself. All right. Already we have so many options to make an illustration. Now, when it comes to the full page, before I go to this, are there any questions? Any doubts? Okay. All right. Okay.
I just wanted to know the recipes. What is the font or lettering style? It looks so nice. The word recipes.
This? Oh.
Yeah, stretched out.
There isn't a font style, but it is based on a Spencerian lettering style. So I'll do that in the calligraphy once. I'll show it to you. So this is, I think it would be a combination of Spencerian and American cursive because it's got both elements to it. All right, now when it comes to full page illustration, it's basically just a combination of your full page illustration style, how you want to illustrate. So that goes in the illustration part of this project. But the other part is the text. So when you have one full page illustration, the remaining page is where you put your lettering in. Then the lettering generally gets a lot of importance there. So what we can focus on in that case would be the different font styles. Not that they're not important in the above explorations, they are important here as well. But when you have one full page illustration, then next to it, how do you make an interesting page so that it matches what you have drawn over here? So now let's assume we are making, say, a Greek salad. And our full page illustration can be a beautiful plate in which we have a salad illustrated. And just to make it look Greek, we can design a plate which will have a blue stripe on it. And in the background, you want to probably draw an ocean and some Greek landscape. Like one of those Mykonos or whatever. So you make a nice illustration out of your recipe, for your recipe. Now, when you want to write Greek salad, you can write it like that. Or in that case, your font choice could be a little more appropriate. And you could go back to a more Greek lettering style. So this is what I mean by font choice. Now, instantly, all of it gets tied together. Now, when you have a full page illustration, the layout for the text part, you may have it full text, or you can also have a little bit of illustration here. There's no reason why you can't. So suppose you have a Greek salad over here. Maybe you could put in a special ingredient over here, or a little embellishment like these olive leaves or something like that, so that it all ties together. The whole page should be so evocative that it can instantly transport you to the place that you're talking about. So when you're thinking in terms of layouts, don't restrict yourself to just these elements or just about something that is very formulaic. You can play around a little bit also. But the end result should be that your page should look so enticing that nobody wants to move further, or if they do, they want to keep coming back and seeing this again. Just seeing the page is a visual delight. And when you're designing this, a lot of things come to mind. Sometimes if you've traveled, then memories of the travel come back. Once that happens, then memories of the food from there come back, all of it. So attention is what you're looking for, not just making a page look pretty. It's the interaction that you are creating between the page and the viewer that also is very important. Now, would you like to try another option over here? The illustration is going to be pretty much the same, but we have several options over here. Think of another dish maybe that you want to illustrate. Here again, you can go by the same kind of, in illustration also, the same things can be done. You can make the illustration in the center, you can distribute all the ingredients. Maybe don't even make the final dish, only the ingredients can be shown. All sorts of things can be done. Give it a shot. Try and make your own layout. Now, one thing to keep in mind is often with pictures, it's better to have the picture on the right-hand side and the text on the left. Only because when we are flipping through a book, our books, because they are bound on the left side, our eye first falls on the right side of the page and not on the left. So in interest-wise, you'd want to see the picture first, and then you would read the recipe. However, when it comes to recipe books, since I've helped make some recipe books and also designed some, there is often a demand that the recipe is more important than the picture. For me, it's exactly the opposite. The picture is more important. So, recipe, very often cooks would like the recipe to be on the right hand page because that stays flat and the left hand page usually rolls up. So, think of all these things when you are illustrating your book. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? I'll give you 5 minutes. Think of some interesting recipe. Try some font. I'm going to help you with designing some fonts also, but maybe you can just give it a shot and see if you can make an interesting layout design. Okay, I'm going to make my illustration on the right side.
Aditi, are you making an apple pie?
Yes.
I'm thinking of the exact same thing, and I started doing it.
It's raining outside, and I've been wanting to make an apple pie for a whole week now, just because of that weather. So unfortunately, I'm not the types who likes bhaji or
Me neither, no.
vada pav or something like that. But give me an apple pie and coffee any day on a rainy day, I'm very happy. So I thought, okay, chalo, that's one. And I love the illustration also. So that makes it even more easy. I hope this is exciting everyone to contribute to a recipe book this year. Huh? I'm getting very excited now. I want to make a recipe book. We can, so we still have time. When is Diwali this year? Is it in November? I think it will be in November this year because there's an extra month. So we can come up with a recipe book again. Okay, so I'll show you the recipe books later, but if everyone is done now, maybe I can show you some lettering samples. Now, of course, I have that whole book, but we won't go through the whole book today.
Aditi, can I just show you my rough little sketch? Is it?
Yeah.
One sec. One sec. One sec. Like this? Would this layout be good? Like it has a pot in the middle of the two pages.
Yeah.
One side is the jam jar and the other side is the
Yeah,
recipe.
of course, it works. In terms of design, it works. And then it's just a matter of figuring out the printing bit. But
Ah,
yeah, so what happens when you make a facing page
on both sides.
both
Mm.
sides is you should not put too much information or very pertinent parts of the illustration where the spine is going to cut through. But if it is just a whole pot of stew and it's going to be a pretty homogeneous looking illustration, nothing is going to get cut, then you can put it across the spread also. It looks very nice. Okay, so before the lettering, then let me just show you some.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that Greek thing, you know, with a landscape and something from the travel. But my recipes are very Indian. So I have to, oh, actually, why? Indian will do. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Indian will do. You can put it in any place. I mean, you could put a thepla on the moon also. It doesn't matter. I think a thepla will reach the moon before anything else, for sure. The way it lasts. They have not, NASA has not tapped into Indian food, how it lasts and lasts. If we had the ambition, we could have conquered the world on just theplas, I think.
Conquering half the world with our food anyway.
We are
People love
anyway.
it.
Okay, so this was the first book, no? And
So
this is
beautiful.
the second
Yeah.
book. So these were the student recipes. This workshop was actually only for lettering. Huh? This was a lettering
Oh.
workshop that eventually became the illustrated cookbook. So this is what I mean. A bunch of interesting masalas have gone into the spine. So though everything else looks nice, if only this had been shifted over here, which is a blank space, then you wouldn't have missed out on the cinnamon, the cloves. That's all you need to take care of, nothing else. So now you can see some of our design options over here, no? The simpler options. You have something like this over here with the text on top. Now, many of these have text and illustration. This is also an option that we have not explored over here. Within the text itself, you have the illustration. Here we have one full page illustration, the finished image, and the text. Yeah, this is also very nice. So when you have illustrations like these, where yeah, this is one full page of all the booze that goes in a red wine sangria, and then the final presentation. But look at this, it makes the picture look so much fun.
And boozy.
And boozy, true.
Lovely. Just captures it. I love the boldness of the colors. I mean, you know, I would be so afraid to make a red bottle and just solid blocks of color. It's amazing.
Yeah,
look at that. Look at that apple, and it's just there. Very nice.
It pops out. So then we have this one also, where there isn't anything written, hardly. I mean, you just put all of this, put some arrows, and then you
in turn.
Yeah.
That's a cute idea. One arrow into the other arrow, and you know exactly what.
Correct. So this was the first year, then this was last year.
This was our year, yeah. Our year, I say, because it was my first year. Janita had done some, I think Janita had done these fabulous Bengali pages, two of them.
See,
yeah, that is mine. Yeah. But just show Janita those Bengali recipes, that pumpkin flour and that fan. Oh, look at that. No, the yellow page, yes.
Yeah.
Just went past. Look at that. It has a background. So pretty. The fan is done so well. And it's all in black and white. Still there's color.
Yeah, still looks lovely.
Beautiful.
Even
beautiful.
this is such a beautiful
Look at
composition.
Fabulous. Someone had done parathas also. Look at that short print.
This was from a travel illustration page that we'd done. So Susan picked that up. Very nice.
Someone had done a paratha also, which was Yeah, these. My goodness,
Nugget,
aloo parathas
aloo
to make
paratha.
is bad enough. Amazed.
Even this is such a
Yeah.
simple design, but looks so nice. That's all you need.
Wow. Look at the lettering, big.
Hmm.
There was some young child who had done a drink, I think, in this
No, no,
book.
Tomka. He had made a Tomka here. Yeah, the
Look
drinks
at
are
this.
also over here. These are nice.
Look at that. Yeah. But
And
that color that boy,
this was
this. Look
Tomka.
at the color of that bowl. I would never think of putting it in a black bowl. It would scare the life out of me.
Yeah. And even these things,
Marvelous.
these lines are not perfect.
Yeah,
It
but
looks so nice.
beautiful.
And this was the book that I made
Oh,
for someone. This was commissioned. So
okay.
here the recipes are all given, so I could not put them in the illustration. So they are written and the illustrations are on.
Oh, lovely.
So
Yeah,
this
this was a
club.
this was some family event which they wanted some
Yeah, it's a book
memento.
club and it's
Oh, it's a
I
book
think
club.
10th anniversary or something like that. So they
Yeah.
often make something like that during their book club meets. So they decided to put all of that together.
Is this on sale or not?
No, it's not on sale because it was a private commission.
Ah, right. Because some of those recipes are
They are
really
very
interesting. And there were
nice.
I
names that I
haven't
didn't
heard the
recognize.
names either. Sashmi. Aditi, I wanted to do something similar like this in class for
Huh,
us,
huh.
especially when the portrait class was going on. I wanted you to give a description of the person and see how well we could do the portrait.
Okay. All right.
Mm. So how
Ah,
they gave you the recipe and then you did the illustration. I wanted to do that with portraits because often so we read in novels, I mean, you visualize it, but then how well it translates onto paper, that's one thing I wanted to see for myself.
But, actually, that's a very nice idea, but I think portraits would be quite a challenge. We could start off with something simpler. Just taking an excerpt from a novel that describes something, and there could be a lot
Some
of
landscape or
it could
some.
be landscape, it could be food, it could be
Right.
a description of a room or a location. So something like that. Or when we move to people,
Right.
the first thing could be posture. So when they describe that so and so is sitting very alert or suddenly became relaxed, those are the things that we could look for and illustrate. And we can look for references. So it's not as if because with human figures and faces, we need to get a command on the just building the face together. That it can be very challenging. So we can bring it up to that. But I like the idea of visualizing. We should do it as a maybe an additional Sunday group class or something.
Right.
Let's try something new. Good idea.
Yeah. So here's my apple pie. Let me try and flip.
Yeah, we could do a caricature kind of, so that we are not stuck to, exactly what they look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Animation figure.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. See, this is lovely.
Tried making a tartan, but I think you should show us when we do textures or fabrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, tartar is very easy to make. I'll show you. Okay, so shall we move on to some text options? Because in text also a little bit of the layout is important. How do you look at text and the space around text? So like with pictures, as we've seen in layouts, it's all about distributing space, distributing the elements in a particular space to make it create a certain effect. So very often we are expecting only a pleasant effect, but that's just one thing that you can do. Sometimes, like you've seen the variety of text and illustrations, and font styles and colors that are possible, it can also be evocative. There can be a range of emotions that you can draw from. So you could have something that, like I showed you, the Greek written in a particular style and color evokes a Greek holiday. Similarly, the manner in which you put the letters together can even evoke sense of peace, anarchy, maybe some joy, maybe nostalgia. So it's also in not just the form of the letter, but the manner, the spacing that we do, the positioning, the orientation that we do, all of that can bring up some emotion. Now, we can go by the standard chart, which says use this color because this is a warm color and this will create excitement. Or what I would encourage you to do is allow yourself to respond without feeling the need to get validation from someone else. So if I use a blue color for a font that is really bold and very packed together, that might look aggressive just because of its form. And it might look aggressive to one, and it might look very peaceful to another, because all these things are dependent on our personalities. And we do not have to all have the same response to everything, because otherwise then we would be robots. This would be a fed response. So I feel often that since, at least in my case, being able to voice an opinion that is different from someone else, especially the majority, was never encouraged, never through school, through college, through any kind of work. Majority wins. This was like, it was ingrained when we did that thing, majority wins. It was just, it's just something that I've had to learn to do and be okay with being the only person who says, you know what, I don't agree. I think black is a beautiful color and I would like to wear it. So it might take a little time. So give yourself time to hesitate. You don't always have to know everything on the first experience. That's not how experience works. So you make a few lettering styles, put them up or see them often enough. And every time you see them, there will be some response that you feel. And that response may change, or it may it could be quite mercurial. At some point it will all consolidate and you say, okay, this, I think, yes, when I want to make something bold and aggressive, I think this is what I would like to do. I feel it, bold and aggressive. And once you're done with that, 5 years later, it may not be bold and aggressive anymore. It's perfectly fine. All right, so I'm going to show you a few tricks to play around with fonts so that you can, in the week, if you have time, this is what you can do. So there are a whole bunch of fonts in this book. Those of you who've still not picked up, you can pick it up. It may not be on the website anymore, but write to me and I can ship this to you. And in a few weeks, it'll be available as an ebook on Amazon also. So there's 125 different styles to choose from, but I can show you how you can build your own fonts as well with just simple tricks. After all, it's just one family of letters that we are playing around with, right? So the easiest thing to do is to, I'm going to give you a bunch of different A's, and the formula of each of these letters, lettering styles, will be pretty much the same. So for example, if we start off with one letter A like this is our basic letter form. What all can we do to it? Again, we can go through all of these things. Not all of these. I mean, we can break it up into, we can have height. width, thickness of letter, slant of letter, and serif, non-serif. With any number, the moment you have more than one variable, by permutation and combination, everything just expands. So suppose we want to make letters which are tall or short. So we have the same letter, which can become, with the same width, it can become really tall. I'm just contracting it to fit over here. Or it can become really short. It can become really wide. Or in this case, it is narrow. As far as thickness is concerned, I can change the width of my pen and I can make a letter that's like this. And I can maybe even fill this up so that it looks more organized. So that makes height, weight, thickness. Then I can slant it to the right, and in fact also slant it to the left. This does make it seem a little unnatural. And those of you who've been exposed to that whole handwriting analysis, they generally tend to think that left-leaning letters are not really good. They have all sorts of analysis for left-leaning letters. I don't believe in any of that. So sometimes left-leaning might work, but there could be, I mean, your brain itself might have some resistance because it makes it a little difficult to read, but it's perfectly fine. Nothing's wrong with you. And then the last part is the serif, non-serif. So serifs are these extra pieces of lines that we make on letters, and they tend to look a little more formal because these letter forms do derive their lineage directly from Roman letters, which all had a serif. They were built with a serif. So a Roman font would be like this. Oops. And these serifs were necessary because when the letters were chiseled, you could not get really sharp corners. The corner would eventually just break off. So they would start off with chiseling a very narrow line, then going into the broad line. So these are serif and these are all non-serif. These are the different options we have. So within these itself, there are so many things that you can do. Try writing your name in all of these fonts. So you can have a tall font, which would be rather narrow. Now, when it comes to writing your name, you also have to contend with the space in between the letters. That's another factor. Like the background, the space in between letters is the background on which the letters will be supported. Then we have short. And then we have wide. And you can also do curious things like this. So I often do this. I sign my paintings often with something like this. So it's just shapes. When it comes to using specific tools like these, a little bit of practice is necessary. But if you're just going to thicken the line, you can just use one of these tools and make sure that the line is, I mean, you don't have any of these wedges. You just complete the wedges and essentially you've just made this shape in a wide line format. Then you have something like this, very common. Now, even these letters will look different the moment you change the spacing. And then this is very difficult even for me to do. But very objectively speaking, it should work. Oh my God, it looks like somebody is really walking against the wind with such labor. And a simple serif font could also be like this. Now, a little addition to this. Now that we know so many options are possible, here's something more that you can do. You can change your tool and do the same things with something like brush letter or with watercolor and see what effect it has. So with brush letter, you can change the thickness of the line on the go, on the fly. So it makes for a very dynamic line and also sometimes an unpredictable line, which is not always a bad thing. So for example, I could do something like this. Some places it's thick, some places it's thin. Then you can build up on the letters. So here's something that I've shown in the book where you can make, say, letters like these based on creating outlines. So you have a basic letter form and then you create outlines and shadows. So this is a very simple skill. You just start off with a letter form, expand it from the outside, and then you can create the same kind of variables that we have made earlier: tall, fat, thick line. So this is what you do. These are your skeleton letters. You add an outline to these, and then eventually you can get this. You can keep the outline and or you can get rid of the outline. So for that, the process is to first write the skeletal letters with adequate space in between. I'm going to write apple pie. I'm tired of writing my name. I'm just writing apple actually, because I will show you how letters can also be changed halfway through. Now notice how if you were to imagine my letters fit in some kind of an area that can be drawn out. Sorry, it's over here. And the space between the letters, I'm trying to maintain that as uniform as possible. It's really important that this negative space, overall negative space, remains uniform. That is what makes a letter look like it is printed. To this now, I can, because of the space, I can accommodate extra lines. And I can make this a nice fat letter. So it is like writing with a big fat pen, but it's transparent. See? And the additional space in between will reduce. This itself is a really nice exercise. Just writing all sorts of titles. You could, you don't even need to write recipe titles for this. You can write quotes, you can write instructions to your children or to your maids. Wash the curtains or something like that in this letter. You don't have to always scribble that, no? Or lunch in fridge. Use this on a post-it. It's great fun. Now, when you have one kind of lettering like that, and of course, at this point now, you can use the eraser to remove the internal skeletal line and whatever additional lines you might have made, even a baseline sometimes. Now, you can write the word pie in the same style if you want, or you can change that a little bit and you could write pie with a different pen in a different style. With some overlaps or some fun added to it. So whatever happens, you need to make this into a habit. As far as possible, stay away from your regular handwriting. And not because your handwriting is bad, but you are very used to it. And I challenge, at least amongst this group, do any of you think your regular handwriting is really nice? It could be very nice. There could be other people who might think it is very nice, but you are so used to it. It's a ghar ki murgi syndrome. So you can change your regular handwriting, still write like it is handwriting, but it does not have to, it's unfamiliar to you, you enjoy it for a little while, and that helps you to build on more styles. So moving on to body text, I'll just quickly cover this.
Aditi,
Yeah.
I try, but I fail miserably. So I like the font that you've written your recipes and pie in. So I try something like that, but somehow can't seem
No,
to
so
crack that.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, so yeah.
Letters.
Okay, so one thing is, don't write that whole title in the same font. So I would, what does it say? A view from?
No, the wine village of
The wine village of
Turkey. Yeah,
Turkey.
Turkey.
Okay.
So the name of the place I've written it in one font.
Very nice. Okay, so
And
I would, that is it. I think it looks really nice. The spacing has gone a little off. So the words, the wine village of, could be a little closer. And Turkey is bold enough, so it should stand out. It's those spaces between those words that's distributing the letters as if they're exploding outward rather than coming inward. But I'll just give you another option also. I'll show you what you could do that might, the other options that you could try. So first and foremost, when you're writing that phrase, did you write the wine village off first and then Turkey below? I would reverse it. So first write the emphasis, the word that has more emphasis. So suppose you're writing something like this. This is the focus. Now on this, you need to write the wine village off. So after you finish the painting, I would suggest write at least a few lines. The wine village, Lage, off. This gives you an idea of where you want to fit it. When we start writing directly, more often than not, we don't get it right. Even I don't get it right. Now, this is a little to the left. At this stage, I can move all the letters a little to the right so that it fits perfectly on top. And here, I would in fact write something like this. A much smaller, simpler font, narrow letters, so that it doesn't take away too much attention from your illustration. So you see the name of the place, you see this, and then you see this. The illustration should get more importance. Now, also what this allows is, it's a long phrase. So to manage consistency of writing in a long phrase is added stress. So get rid of that. Here you can focus on one word and make it look beautiful. It's already looking lovely. And this is much easier to write than would be the whole phrase in a running hand.
Right.
Right. So you can do that for illustration. Okay. So this is obviously, as always, not the tip of the iceberg, but a picture of the tip of the iceberg seen online from far away. There is a lot you can do. You can explore. But like I said, I've given you the breakup of all the elements that you can juggle around and see what you land up with. So what I'm going to suggest is at least invest a little bit of time in making some layouts, think up some recipes, and even if they're just rudimentary sketches of things that you can write a single recipe of, start putting it down in a sketchbook. You can use an old diary or something like that. Use regular ball pens to draw the images. They don't have to be very fancy, but also you can make them, just fill them out with color, put some watercolor on it, just see how it looks. Because much of this, as far as design or layout is concerned, it all has to do with your interaction with that design. And in this case, your interaction with your own design. So you have to be able to see, you have to, it's like a muscle. You come to a point where you are aesthetically happy with what you are creating. Okay. All right. So next week, we will go back to print design, but we will do tracing paper. Yes. So today, today, a couple of people did not have tracing paper. That's why I decided not to continue, not to take that on, because without tracing paper, it's a very frustrating exercise. So next week, just a small tracing paper is also fine. And if it's just get one sheet, we are not going to use more than this, at least for the exercise. But of course, you can get more and take that exercise to town. That's up to you.
We were going to say
This
something
flew
about the
down the
body
main
text.
road and all the traffic, and someone brought it back all crumpled like this. It was most horrible. It was just flying down. I was like, oh God, so much breeze.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you were saying something about the body text. And
Yeah. The fourth part, the others part. Yeah, so this is when we talk about the body text, or we talk about layout, we are still right now thinking of regular background. So you have white paper background, you have colored paper, or you have textured paper. But you should also consider other ways of presenting. Like, for example, this is something that I've been wanting to try for a long time. You can use a window. You can actually paste your illustrations on a window, and there can be anything behind it. So say, for example, you go to Paris and you have the whole Parisian cityscape through the window. You should be able to make a picture, paste it on the window, and take a picture of that. So there your background has changed completely. You could have a beautiful blue sky, a picture of your illustration, some red roofed buildings. And then on that picture, you could then handwrite text, superimpose all of that, and that becomes your page also. So that's one option. Another option is you make little pictures of all the stuff that you want to put in a composition, and then go outdoors anywhere. So say, for example, you are making something with mushrooms. You can literally take all your illustrations and place them in a particular area that looks like the size of your book page. And on dirt or leaves or where mushrooms grow, or with insects or butterflies or anything, your illustrations are there, and click a picture of that, and that becomes something onto which then you can superimpose your letters. So with backgrounds, it's up to you how much you want to expand it. You could even write a recipe on the vessel that you are making it. So if, say, you're making a casserole or something, instead of the casserole in the casserole, the dish in the casserole, you could write the recipe in the casserole with the ingredients all outside, and you can take a picture of that. It's still considered an illustrated recipe. Okay. So just incidentally, just today, I came across a very interesting page on Instagram. Let me see if I've saved it. That a lady found a gravestone on which the person who was buried there has engraved her recipe, a recipe of a
I've
cookie,
seen that.
like that. So this girl is she's so kicked by it. She is apparently traveling to graveyards where recipes are written, makes that recipe and goes back and eats it with the person who's written the recipe. So it's literally engraved, somebody's cookies, somebody's stew. This is the last thing that they wanted people to have, and people are enjoying. So don't put anything past. Any surface on which you can make your mark is game for background. Okay? All right. Okay, so I shall catch you next week. Thank you, everyone, and get those tracing papers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.